Okay, so welcome to the second episode, of our podcast related to product management. So near and dear, I think, to Frank and my heart is we've worked with a lot of first-time founders with very early stage startups. So definitely before we get any deeper into politics or talking more about and ranting more about product management, I think we'd love to talk a little bit more about our experience working with very early problems and very early solutions and how we were able to navigate through that experience. Yeah. So, Frank, can you tell me more about your experience um, and what advice would you give founders validating their problem space?
Yeah, I think the best thing you can do is to adopt a scientist mindset. Because when you're a scientist, you start with a hypothesis. So, hypothesis is something that you expect something to happen under certain circumstances, right?
Yeah.
So, the hypothesis might be that if you are building an airplane, if you use paper and wood, it will fly. Because the wood and paper are light materials, right? But okay, this is a hypothesis, and it comes from your previous experience, from some data points. Paper and wood is light. Maybe you've seen someone else doing the same stuff, maybe something different. Maybe someone told you. So there are many data points that inform your hypothesis. But every hypothesis comes with an assumptions. And for this hypothesis, we can say the assumption might be that the paper and wood wouldn't break if you build airplane from it and fly. There are so many physical forces that can break the material, so it is firm enough and flexible enough, for example. Also, that the wood and paper are cheap and available in the amount you need to build an airplane, right? In some viable time frame, let's say. So it is feasible to do it. And to test it, I think you wouldn't build an airplane for 5 years, put a human being inside the airplane and run it from the hill to see if it stands all those physical forces when it's made from wood and paper, right? You would probably do some experiments. So you take every assumption and you make an experiment. So you would try to bend the materials in some machines, maybe with forces that are similar to the flight, or you would try to source some suppliers for the materials. You can maybe also build a small model and run it from the hill and see how it goes. So you would do the experiments that will be fast and cheap. And I think that the same advice goes for product development in terms of startups and in terms of digital products and software. You first need to define your problem hypothesis, which is who wants to achieve what outcome, let's say, what are their motivations to achieve it, when the urge to solve a problem or this outcome comes in, how severe it is, how frequent it is, and what are all the motivations behind it. So you define your hypothesis and then you map out the assumptions. So you map out all the assumptions and you took those that are most critical and most unknown. So you have the least evidence about them that they are true. Let's think about assumption as some statement that something needs to be true for your idea to work.
Yeah.
So I think this is actually the approach that you take nothing as a true before you actually test it. And you test it by bite-sized pieces. So this is, I think, an approach, a mindset you can adopt to be effective and to stay rational in product development and not be emotional that much about your shiny idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of founders also are always about the dream state. And I think one common pitfall or mistake that founders have is that they always think about the solution first, right? So to answer also the same question, for me, it always boils down to who is your customer, Who are you trying to solve the problem for? And I know there's a lot of variables to balance, right? You have to think about the problem, the assumptions or hypothesis, and you have to think about the customer. But when you think about that formula for those three things, then I feel like you're on the right path already. You're in a good first step, because a lot of founders skip either one of those. Either they have the solution first, they don't have the customer for it, or they don't have the proper customer in mind, or they don't have the right problem statement. And usually when it comes to, you wanting to raise funds or you telling that story, actually a good litmus test or a meter for it would be trying to do a pitch. So do a pitch without any of those three things, and you'll realize you might not have the best pitch because you can't explain it well. Or you have like multiple paragraphs, just to explain the thing that you're trying to solve for whom and what your assumptions are. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like two quotes come into my mind about this. Like the very classic one: get in love with the problem, not with the solution. Right.
Yeah.
And there's one thing that's called solution trap. And you can really test if you are thinking too much about the solution before you think about the problem. And that is, if I tell you, okay, let's build an airplane.
Yeah.
That's not the problem. But there can be more complex statements on what to build. So you can really actually can get lost if you are dealing with the problem or with the solution, right? But if I tell you, let's build an airplane, you have only one option: build an airplane. But the problem behind this is to maybe travel fast and reliably and safely. And if you have this problem statement, you have many, many, many different solutions. So we can say that for every problem statement, you can have many different solutions. But to see if you are in solution trap, you have only one solution to your solution because it is already a solution.
Yeah.
So that is one thing that...
In other words, you find a dead end. Right?
Yeah, that's good to ask. And one more quote that reminds me was what Albert Einstein said, paraphrased.
Not E is equal to MC squared.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I need to light up more my brain, but it paraphrased, he said that if I had an hour to solve a problem, I would take 55 minutes to thinking about the problem and 5 minutes to find the solution or to actually solve it. And I think the same thing applies for product management and being a founder of a startup, because if from the start you define the problem badly, everything else
it's a domino effect.
will
crumble,
end up in trash. Make a solution to develop something. It is a very easy way of wasting money. So the problem statement is something, and understanding, not the problem statement, but understanding the problem really is very important part in the first step.
Yeah.
So what would be your advice in validating or experience in validating the problem space?
So we were talking about the three things, right? The problem, the hypothesis, and the customer. For me, I want to focus on the customer. So one use case I have that shows that it's easier to validate with the customer in mind is when I worked with the Metro Group and Real Supermarket. So Real Supermarket, for those who don't know, probably for America, these are what Safeway supermarket is to Albertson. So Albertson is like the bigger company. And that is Metro, and then Real Supermarket is like the Safeway that is part of that part of that group. So we had the pilot in Dusseldorf, actually in 10 different branches around the country, to test how data-driven meal kits will work. And we were trying to build a data-driven meal kit company. And what we did was, I went personally in all of these stores. I was already studying German. So what I did was to speak a little bit Denglish when talking. Denglish is Deutsch English.
Yeah, can you show us something?
I don't have bachelor's in the second episode.
You have amazing impressions. You showed me Karen.
Ich habe keine Ahnung. Alles gut, man. Okay, so sorry. So going back to the topic. So being able to spend a lot of time in these different stores and immersing myself with these different customers allowed me to work with the team on creating data-driven meal kits that are more specific towards the market that we're serving for each branch. And it allowed us to test some of our hypotheses by putting the customer at the center and thinking that, hey, probably in Rostock, the branch there probably have more suburban moms, so probably they appreciate meal kits that are more for their family, that's gesund, very healthy and perfect for them. Or when you go to Dusseldorf, probably it's more younger people, so being able to immerse myself in the customer and trying to understand also their lives allowed me to have a better assumption set and a better test, we talk about an experiment, a better test formula to get better results. So the result there was that we were able to have better conversions from customizing which meal kits we deploy for each area in Germany, and we had better results for our pilot. Yeah.
Since we are talking about the problem, maybe that connects to the strategy, I'm wondering how, if we are doing the research, because every founder has a vision in the start of what they want to build. So,
which is correct. But they should have that.
Yeah. I mean, but then it happens. You get market feedback and it differs from what your vision is, or it seems that it will lead you some other way. So how do you think founders can balance their vision with the market feedback they get?
I feel like founders sometimes think too much and are sold already with their solution. But I think when it comes to problem solving, they have to be flexible and really think about their problem and have a lot of hypotheses, right? They shouldn't be, as you mentioned, they shouldn't be locked to just that idea of a solution, but they should have multitudes of solutions so that they would know and they will be able to test which one will be best for the problem. One way of doing that, so going back to being a product person, you always have to plan. And this is me. Probably you're different, Frank. But I always usually work with the founder to plan their 3-year roadmap, when we start working together, because it stretches the limits of their imagination to really think out of the box and make an assumption that it might not be perfect on the first experiment that we run, right? You might not even have one person that's willing to pay €1, $1, one Czech krone, just for that product. But having a 3-year roadmap allows you to be flexible, and that affects also what you build, right? So let's say you build at the beginning and you're a fast builder, because I know some founders want to test manually, some want to automate it. But let's say you come up with an MVP, that MVP can also translate into a phase 2 or a phase 3 with the other assumptions that you have because you've created a 3-year roadmap. So for me, as a product person, as a product consultant, as a product guy, I usually advise founders to let's plan a 3-year strategy before you get locked into a first quarter and this is what we only look at. Yeah. Cool. How about you, man? Have you had those experiences with founders that only had one solution, How do you usually work with them?
Well, maybe I would like to talk a little bit more about what actually vision is, because what I experienced in every company I was that vision and mission are two terms that no one understands. And I find out that there is no correct answer to what vision or mission is. I always believe that vision is a state of things that you want to achieve, but it should be almost unachievable. It should be like manifesto or something like this, right? And the mission is the why of the golden circle of Simon Sinek. Why do we exist? What impact do we bring? But later, to simplify the things, for me, the vision is the why. So it means that the vision translates the impact of what we are doing on an ultimate outcome. So let's say the vision of Lyft, the Uber alternative, might be to free up the streets of cars so we can have more walking areas for people. I think if you have vision like this, you have, again, multiple solutions how to achieve this vision. So how I'm thinking about the vision is that the vision should be infinite, that you almost can't achieve it.
That's a good one, actually.
And there are many ways how to achieve it, the vision. So I think the vision should be actually inflexible and set in stone. But the thing that gets impacted by the market feedback is the strategy. And the strategy is the features and products you will develop to achieve your vision. But it's the strategy that you tweak and twist based on the market feedback. So this is how I think about the vision and strategy. But it can happen that you start running out of money and you tried many strategies to achieve your vision. And then you are before the choice what you will do. Maybe you did already some product, but you can't achieve your vision on the target audience you have right now, or vice versa. You have good target audience with some problems, but there are different problems that then your product already solved. So I think in this situation, you are changing the vision because you have to change for something else. And this is what we called pivoting the idea. So I think the pivot is the only point where you actually change the vision. But it is the most extreme change that you can do to your product strategy or vision, however you call it. So this is how I think.
Sometimes it's difficult, though, for founders to pivot, right? Or even think about it. Because I think they spent a lot of money and time already, perhaps on their first idea. And then, despite you trying to validate it with different customers and transform the product in different ways, it still doesn't fit the shoe of the customer. I mean, man, this is me and my bad analogies, but like the feet, okay, whatever. It just doesn't fit.
Yeah. I mean, but in every dimension of product market fit, be it the target audience or the value proposition or the business model, you can do the pivot. So you can keep most of the stuff. For example, you are developing a platform as a marketplace for tutors and mentees, but it doesn't work. But what you developed, by the way, was a payment solution for tutors to get paid. And maybe this is the value you can use, right? So you are not doing the marketplace, but you are giving the tutors the tools how they can monetize their own people, that they can find themselves. So many times you already built something valuable, but maybe it is not valuable for the target audience you are working with right now. So I don't see a reason to throw it away, like it doesn't work. Maybe you can try to choose different target audience or different positioning of your product, or cut out some features and bring the features that are really the core for other target audience.
Yeah, I think there's another fork road there, man. So I think that you brought up is pretty good, but I think there's also another fork road there that instead of like pivoting completely your vision, probably there's an add-on feature while testing. So example, you're seeing a little bit that your first version or whatever you're testing is not gaining the results that you want, and you've spent a certain amount of money already that you're like, okay, I'm a bit impatient. I want to try something else. I think the other perspective there is remember that not everything requires tech, and a lot of founders forget that. And take note, me too, because I always think that you have to spend for tech to validate, and it should be perfect to validate and make things work, But what I've done with other founders and while working with them is that we tried something that's also manual, or we can also drive it with operations. For example, I have one partner now who we're doing everything with tech and doing channel testing just to see if we can get product market fit. But there are also more use cases that we're trying now that we can do hands-on, getting our hands dirty to actually do it with a new potential customer that it might even give us the pivot. Right? But at the same time, we're still running our ads. We're still being patient. Hopefully, one of our messaging or changes in imagery will get that conversion. But at the same time, we're also trying other pilots to see if these will actually work. So that can also be another way if people, if founders are impatient, right? So there's a lot of stuff you can do. Yeah. You just have to have creative thinking. Yeah. What do you think are the common pitfalls that first-time founders should really watch out for? There's a lot, but...
Oh, yeah. I think that building product and being a founder, it's a lot about psychology. So I like to dive deep in the psychology, and I think the most common pitfalls comes from cognitive biases. For example, confirmation bias, my favorite, is that you want to confirm things that you want to be true. So, for example, you have very amazing, shiny idea and you do market research, but you only look for stuff that confirms it is a good idea, right? But you completely ignore these other 10 times more data points that tells you, no, this is not a good idea. So you're selectively choosing just the information to confirm that it is a good idea and to confirm or you select something that aligns with your beliefs. So this is this, and the fun part is that even if you see something contradictory to what you believe, you can interpret it the way it supports your idea. So this is something that I think the founders really need to be aware of. Another bias is a self-image bias, and that also applies to founders, but it more applies to the customers. So when you are speaking with a customer, I will give you a story. Do you remember when you last time bought something expensive?
Oh, I can remember that, man.
Yeah, and then you were the ambassador inside your whole family and friends group, like telling everyone it's really good stuff. I tell you, man, I bought Aura Ring, right?
Oh, God.
And it's amazing, of course. I mean, it measures all those data and you can experiment with your longevity and health and everything. But yeah, like the reality is that your life is too chaotic. And if you want to experiment with supplement, I don't know, ashwagandha or those, hipster longevity supplements, your life is not consistent for you to, for 3 weeks, experiment and to really see if it does have an impact or not. But do I tell everyone it is a good stuff? Yeah, probably I tell them it is good stuff because I paid $500,
Obviously, you have to
$500 for this.
You have to justify the purchase.
Of course.
Yeah.
And the problem is that if I bought stupid thing, that makes me stupid. Yeah. And I don't want to be stupid. No one wants to be stupid. So that's the self-image or identity bias that we want to see ourselves in the best light. And the problem is that if you ask your customers questions the wrong way, that lets them answer biased by this bias. They will tell you not the true behavior that they have.
What you want to hear.
But and they are not lying.
Yeah.
They just have an idea of how they want to perceive themselves. They will not tell you the truth. So this is another bias. And now imagine a scenario. You are not aware of your confirmation bias. So you have an idea. Now you go to customer interviews and you want to validate it. But you are only looking for those stuff that it validates it for you. And you are speaking with someone in a way that they are basically lying to you without even knowing. So you are looking for wrong stuff and listening to the stuff that's not true. Yeah. What is that? Is a disaster if you are building a product. So I think it is very important to be aware of those biases for the founders to really look not only for the stuff that confirms that their idea is good, but for the stuff also that is contradictory. Yeah. And for the second bias, for self-image bias, it is very important to ask right questions. It's simplified. I won't ask you, how do you usually buy jeans? Yeah. I will ask you, how did you buy jeans last time? I won't ask you, how many times do you go to the gym? I will ask you, how many times were you in gym last month? So you always ask for specific last experiences rather than general perception of who I am or what I do.
So one question for you, and I don't know if you have the answer for it, but sometimes it's difficult, right, to understand if you have these biases because you're in the day-to-day grind, you try to get something out the door, and you don't have enough time to think about the psychology of what you're doing, and how it affects other people. Do you have tips, perhaps, that you've used in your experience to be more aware of these biases? I mean, probably one thing in your head would be like, oh, use ChatGPT.
Oh no, man.
Use AI to be your, self-assessor. I mean, not self-assessor.
Yeah.
One that will assess you, for these biases. But I don't know, man. Do
I
you
think
have any ways
this is
to
very
check?
interesting question because in terms of doing the research, you can just go and read Teresa Torres' Continuous Discovery Habits, and she will tell you about all those biases. You can read Thinking Fast and Slow, so you can educate yourself to know that okay, this is the way how people think. This is
But I think it takes time also, to recognize it.
So,
Yeah.
but then practically you just ask questions the right way. So this is another thing. But if I take it more high level, and if I take it a life principle,
Yeah.
I think that we think all the time, but the least amount of time we think about how we think. And I think it is very important for a human being to stop and think about how we are thinking, right? Because after that, you can see it. And time by time, you will start to be more sensitive on how all those thoughts, because the mind is one big chaos, right? And I think this is very healthy also in personal life to have a moment, meditate maybe a little bit for 5 minutes, just to make the surface of the water calm.
Yeah.
So you can throw there some rock and make the circles. If you throw a big rock into a river, and the mountain river, you can't see any effect.
Yeah.
So it is very important for me, for example, to get calmer, if I can, to listen to my thoughts, to think about how I'm thinking actually, and to see the patterns in my head. For example, I'm pursuing something wrong because I only want to be true, but that doesn't mean it is true, right?
Yeah. And also, I feel like when you're prone to overthinking and you don't take a breather or pause for a bit, you're also prone to mistakes and getting into these biases. I think another way also, man, is to have a sparring partner, similar to us conversing now about product and how to solve these problems. Being able to work with somebody or talk to somebody and ask them if you think these are the right questions to ask, and you think they're not driving the person, whoever you're interviewing, towards the expected outcome. I think that's a good way of also being able to check on yourself.
Great. So right now we know how to do a little bit of market research. Maybe we have our vision. We also have our morning routine for 5-minute meditation, right?
Yeah.
But okay, let's get to the hard part. How should founders approach their first product strategy?
Yeah. I think I kind of answered this also a few minutes ago, but in general, founders should always think about not only the immediate strategy and the solution, but always think about the longer term roadmap or the North Star, and planning for a 3-year roadmap that allows them to really break down the work into multiple segments and phases. Because when you start thinking about that, that's an exercise to help you also expand your imagination and avoid tunnel vision, right? Tunnel vision is, I think, one of the pitfalls of a founder, because for you have that bias already that you have a solution for this problem. But without testing it, you wouldn't know if that's the right solution or that's even the right problem to address, right? But being able to have that strategy brings you a little bit back, into the 50,000-foot view of what you're trying to solve, and have more solutions that will that eventually you can test and prove that this whatever you have in the data is the right path for you.
And you're talking about strategy and roadmap. And
Yeah.
I know this is a tricky question, a difficult one, but what is strategy and what is roadmap? How it differs?
That's good. So strategy, I think, is more generic. It's the act of thinking about what to plan for so that it results in an execution. And then the roadmap is probably a written document or something that you put somewhere so that it's more true, right? So once you plan for that roadmap, you put it, let's say, in a one-pager, and you always go back to that document that we always call it like living and breathing document. So it always keeps on changing, as you test and see how, all of your thoughts evolve as you go through these experiments.
That was actually my next question,
Yeah.
because if you look what happened on the market in last 2 years or 3 years with
What
AI
happened
and
in the last 3
everything.
years?
No, everything.
I have the COVID forgetfulness.
Yeah, everything changes so fast.
Yeah,
so, and from my experience, if we did a 1 year long roadmap, we couldn't even make the first quarter because everything changed so fast. So my question is, maybe what format of the roadmap to make for the 3 years, so it makes sense from the perspective of a good strategy, having a North Star and everything, but still it is flexible, and it is not only, moving the time frames from the left to the right every day.
Well, for me, it's always being able to have those milestones first, because a roadmap is not a roadmap if you don't have like what you want to achieve or what are the success metrics for each of these segments. And you never just create a roadmap that this is the beginning and that is the end, right? Like first stuff, day 1 to day whatever that is on the 3rd year. What you have to do is you plan a roadmap, and usually you have to put this on a digital, somewhere digital. Well, not to promote a certain tool, but I use a lot Notion. I put there the 3-year roadmap with the founder that I usually work with, but we also set success metrics and milestones that are chewable chunks, meaning we don't think that, hey, the success metric will be after a year, but the success metric might be in 3 months, of testing.
Yeah.
Right? So that it feels that, there's an end in sight, and the pivots will happen, or the change in decision or roadmap will happen when you reach probably the first milestone or the second milestone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't have the time frames in terms when those milestones should be achieved?
Well, not should, but assumed milestones will
Yeah.
be achieved, right?
Yeah, okay.
For example, we do an experiment now for product market fit, and this is our first phase of the project. As we get, let's say we started in January 1, and then your first milestone might be the end of the first quarter, which is the 31st of March. Is it 31st or 30th? But anyway, the end of March. As we get to the end of February, we look at our metrics and see if like, hey, are we gonna reach the milestone that we set, or is there some product market fit here? If we see that there's no product market fit, or you're not near the metrics that you've committed to, then you start thinking about, is this the right path for us, or do we start reviewing our roadmap? So take note that a lot of these milestones, I call them like anchors also throughout the year, allow you to really use it as a check, so that probably that's when you evaluate when you have to review and revise your strategy. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Speaking of success metrics, I'm wondering, what do you think is the number one metric for startup founders that are just starting off? So what is the metric that founders should focus on in early stages?
It's actually a very difficult question to answer, just because each business is different. Each problem and solution set or hypotheses are also different, but the common ones that I see are really all about acquisition, right? Because you're trying to prove first that there's somebody willing to buy your product, right? And that conversion to make sure that somebody actually is interested in it, But it's not always about the dollar amount, right? Or the euro amount or the krone amount or whatever currency you have. But it's also about perhaps the other metrics before you even get to the final metric. So when you work with a founder and then you're doing channel testing, let's say using meta ads or paid ads just to get to a result sooner than later, you have to analyze also each part of the funnel.
Yeah.
Right? You have to see if somebody viewed it, somebody clicked on it, what is the click-through rate, how much did they pay for it?
Yeah.
It's difficult because there are a lot of different metrics, that you have to look at. But I think what you're trying to see is how many people will get to the finish line.
Yeah. So we are basically talking about leading and lagging metrics. Because lagging metric is something that we
lagging
know
metrics,
it happened.
Yeah. But we have to give a disclaimer. a lot of product managers have a lot of jargon.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and like, oh my god,
That's-
like a lot. Like I had some product leaders that come from the valley that were notorious for just spitting out, jargon. So
Yeah.
number one, forgive us for doing that because
Yeah.
it makes it easier for us to explain ourselves without, having to like, what's that? What does that mean? Like,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it might be a good learning experience also for our listeners or viewers.
Yeah, if you
to
explain
figure it out,
Yeah.
and if not, ask us in the comments section
Yeah.
or send us a message because we're willing to explain all of these to you
Okay,
because
we
we
are-
also don't know a lot.
So we are already doing this cool stuff.
Yeah.
like,
this, or this.
subscribe, and here you can see this is the camera. There's the camera. Here you can see the first episode, and this is the third episode.
And this is
Okay.
my link tree. Oh my god, this is so weird.
Cool.
Okay. Cool. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of lagging and leading metrics, what I mean by that is lagging metric is something that the result you see only after it happens. And before it happens, you don't see that something is going on. So let's say lagging metric in this context is that you acquired a user, right? But if you see 0, how do you know what's bad?
Yeah.
So those are the leading metrics. How many people seen the campaign on social media? How many people clicked? So it is the funnel metrics. So how many people left in a sign up? What is the conversion rate? How many people came back again? So I completely agree. And as for the first most important metric or set of metrics, it's definitely acquisition, because yes, retention is the king of every business. Yeah. But if you can't acquire users, how you can retain them, right?
Yeah.
And
why don't you explain, Frank? And probably there's an image that pops out here.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain that? The trio of what is that?
Yeah, the growth engine.
Yeah, the growth engine.
Okay, so well, growth engine. It's I think this is Elena Verna stuff. You can find it in Reforge, and Elena Verna is.
Or you can have a link that people can click on so
yeah,
that they can see
okay.
where
Here is the link for a Reforge referral.
Amazon.
Okay.
and purchase her book.
Somewhere else or somewhere here. Yeah. Okay. So the thing is that growth consists of three metrics. Okay. It's the retention, acquisition, and monetization. And the fun part is that if you drive monetization, just making people to pay more, it drives only monetization.
Yep.
If you drive acquisition, so with some acquisition loops or just campaigns, you are showing yourself to more people. Mm-hmm. You just get more people.
Yeah.
But the good thing about retention is that if you drive retention initiatives, so you are trying to make people come back more into your product, you are driving both acquisition and monetization, because there are more opportunities for those customers to refer you. Also, if you are, for example, Pinterest, you have content, like user-generated content loop. So the more users come on Pinterest, the more pins they make, the more they share it, and the more new customers see it and sign up for Pinterest. Yeah. So this is the power of retention. Of course, if customers come back more into Pinterest, they see more ads, which means more monetization for Pinterest. So generally, we can say the retention is the king for product. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, acquisition. Yeah. It doesn't make sense to deal with retention at all.
Oh, totally.
So it's acquisition because you have to show initial traction. And in the beginning, it doesn't really matter that much what is your acquisition cost or everything or anything like this. You just need to get first 1, 10, and 100 customers, maybe 1,000.
Be patient, right?
Be patient, of course. But I think this is the score. And no sport team won a game by staring at the scoreboard, right?
Yeah.
It is output. So the thing that you need to focus on is input. And this is what you mentioned, the leading metrics, the funnel, there you need to be, and you need to focus on the actions. So how many actions, how many warm outreach activities do you need to make? How many cold outreach do you need to make? How many content or minutes of content do you need to make and you are making? And how many paid ads, for example, are you making? And there are other channels, communities, partners and stuff when we are speaking about go-to-market. But this is where your focus needs to be. the acquisition and number of acquired users is just a scoreboard. The game is in the actions you make.
Yeah. And just to add to that, so you can remember the acquisition, retention, and monetization. So there's an interactive element here that says another jargon coming in. So this is what you call a flywheel, right? Is that it just runs by itself. And then, when you're able to fuel acquisition and it goes well, then you get the retention. If it goes well, the money will come in, and then you're able to fuel again to get more customers. There are more complexities when it comes to, I think, this flywheel, but I think that's a good basic model for you to consider what would be initial metrics that you should focus on.
Yeah. And I think the growth loops are a very nice topic for maybe next episode, because I think most of people know funnels, right? But funnels has a start and end.
Yeah.
But what if the start and end can be connected? What if from every user you acquire on the beginning, you can get some content generated and shared to more users, so more users are actually signed up on the beginning again. So it works like compounded interest, and it's like compound interest. I don't know the mathematical term, but exponential. Yeah. So it's exponential. And in the product, it works like this. You need to build those loops, be it viral loop, be it user-generated loop, or paid loop. Yeah, you pay $100, you get 10 users. Those 10 users generate you $1,000. So take the $1,000, you get more users, and you go and go and go. So I think growth loops are a topic by itself.
No, and I think next time we should invite someone, let's say from one of these analytics platforms, to help give more, understanding on a good use case and how to implement such. Because I think,
so Elena Verna, this is an invitation.
No, I know some people from, like, let's say Mixpanel or whatever GA that can be part of our, I think, small show, just to teach people and show them what the use case might look like. Because a lot of people, it's all jargon, right? And then it's all conceptual. But actually, if you see how it comes in, let's say building your own landing page, having a form, being able to track also all of these metrics, it makes it more real, for people. Yeah, cool. So Frank, I think one of the more important questions also we want to ask is, how do you think founders can build effective feedback loops with early users?
Yeah, this is a great question. Maybe I will start why you need feedback loops with the users. When you are a product manager or a founder, you need to define the strategy and roadmap. And how do you define it? And someone can fall in a pitfall of thinking that everything of it must be from like rigorous research, right? But a lot of the stuff product managers and founders, good ones, put on the strategy and roadmap is from intuition. But you have to build that intuition as a muscle. But you have to build the product intuition, and how you build it by exposing yourself as often as you can to the customers and their feedback. So this is why you build the feedback loops.
Yeah.
Actually. And what I really like is the concept of using many different methods to gather the user feedback. We can split it to like quantitative feedback and qualitative feedback. So quantitative feedback, what it is. It means that you see something is happening, some data, people are not signing up or logging up, but you don't know why. And that's why we have also the qualitative feedback. So this is where you ask customers open questions from surveys, on interviews, to see why it is happening, why you are not signing up. So this is how we can split it. So practically in product, you can imagine a pop-up window, and you can target this window on specific segment of users you want to talk with. And you can offer them, hey, let's hop on a call, 40 minutes, $20 as a reward, let's say. And you can automatically book appointments with customers to your calendar with a Calendly or any other booking appointment software. So this is one way, getting customers on the calls. I think a good rule of thumb is to have at least one customer per week. But this is really absolute minimum. And especially in the early stages, you should be the most of the time talking with the customers. And you should be talking with the customers that much until you hear the same things again and again and again. This is the time to build thing. the build stuff, and give it to the customers. And then again, listen and listen and listen. So this is maybe the qualitative way of doing the research and feedback loops. I think the other one that is more quantitative is having the behavioral analytics inside of the product. That means you define the events, sign up, log in, that someone clicks on something, and you measure all those events, all those data in tools like Mixpanel or Amplitude. And you can run experiments in there. Like, okay, so the hypothesis is that if someone reads FAQs, they are more likely to finish the setup flow, let's say. And if you have this data, you can actually validate if this hypothesis is true or not. So this is good, but you can also see that something bad happens in the product or something good happens in the product. If you don't find why inside of those data, you invite those customers that the thing happened to them, you can just export them and invite them on the calls and see why it happened. And then there is a, like, I would say, hybrid way. It's quantitative, both qualitative. So this is surveys like customer satisfaction survey or a customer effort score, let's say. So you have a setup flow, and it's long flow, and it's a new flow, and you need to see how it works for the customers. So after they finish the flow, you ask them, okay, on a scale 1 to 10, how hard was it for you to finish the setup flow? This is the quantity, the quantitatively set how hard it is. But then you ask them open question, what was the hardest thing? And then you ask them second question, what can we do better next time? This very short survey. And I mean, today with all the tools that you can use with ChatGPT and everything, you can really summarize the data easily. You can do the synthesis of the feedback and get really understanding of what needs to be done different. Yeah. And one last thing, imagine that you can take the short anecdotes in form of text or short reels from the interviews with the customers that you record, from the reports in Mixpanel or Amplitude on what happens in the product, what are the changes in the funnel, what A/B tests are doing, and from the reports from the surveys, what are the customers filling in the surveys. You can take all of these and integrate it into one channel where you can read it. All of those tools have integration with Slack, so you have one Slack for customer feedback, and you are getting all those insights from different tools in one place. You read it like a Twitter. So the X, sorry for that, yeah. The X. So instead of reading the X, you are waiting in the line for a coffee and you are reading your customer insights. Yeah. And this is how you build the product intuition.
I have a question, Frank. So I think people would love to get specifics on what or which tools, and take note, this is not a sponsored post. So which among the tools you've used have actually been effective? Because personally, I've used Qualtrics, but they're too big for a lot of different startups, you know. Yeah. But do you know like smaller tools that you can use to show a modal? Sorry, modal is what pops up in front of you for those that don't know. Like
some elements.
If let's say they're just looking at the screen and they don't really subscribe, let's say for a subscription plan, what tools have you used that might be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, for showing the call, the interview invitation, I think this is very easy to code a button and a small text for opening the Calendly. For the surveys, Hotjar might work fine. They have also like free.
Hotjar actually, yeah.
Yeah, they have also free plan.
People always think that Hotjar is only like
recordings.
Heat map and recording, but actually it also has a functionality to pop up something based on some behavior that we can set there.
Yeah. And they also have interviews product, the Hotjar, that you can also be like the silent.
Oh, I never knew that functionality.
Yeah, they do. So surveys, Hotjar, I have experience with Hotjar. It's cool. For the behavioral analytics, Mixpanel is also nice. They also have startup plans. And
the startup plan, I always recommend that to everyone.
1 year free completely, I think. So, but Amplitude, I think they all also have startup plan already. So you can choose. And as for the recordings, I discovered a very cool tool. It's called TLD.
TLDR?
No, it's
Because TLDR is
TLDR.
also like
It's
a newsletter for tech.
TLDV, I think.
Okay.
TLDV. The cool part about this, the bot joins your call, it records the call, it does a really good transcript, and you can use prompts as a templates on the transcript. So is it discovery call? Is it user testing call? And you prompt it, so it gives you the summary in terms of those templates. But what you can do is if you have 20 calls, you can automatically create a report that automatically generates and make slices of those videos with sections where the users said something about a feature request or
That's pretty good.
or a bug. So every week you can have an automatic report in your Slack with all the feature requests or bugs from users, including the transcripts and including all those reels. You can make actually reels from those videos inside of it. So this is very nice. This is very cool.
Yeah, actually, like if the viewers want a segment, where we can teach that, I think we can also create smaller videos so that we can help teach how to set these up. Yeah,
Definitely.
great.
Cool. So that's my thinking about one thing, and that is, what framework would you recommend for prioritizing MVP features? And if this framework is somehow different from the other frameworks that you use when you already have a product. So what is specific actually about prioritizing, if something is, about prioritizing the MVP features?
Yeah. So actually, like, I hate curtailing, innovation and design thinking. And usually you curtail that when at the beginning you already tell them, no, it's not possible or we can't do that. So recently in an offsite with another partner or team in Paris, we actually had everyone who was present, put on post-its all of their ideas based on a customer journey roadmap that I created for their product. And then we put all of the ideas on the wall, on what are the features that you think will actually move the needle with the hypothesis that we have and the problem that we're trying to solve. After that, we went to the other side of the wall, and I'm pulling out one of the best, I think, frameworks that an amazing product leader taught me, and it's really being able to use the chart on level of effort and impact, right? And you can separate those into 4 different quadrants based on, is the high level of effort or a low level of effort, high impact or low impact. What you want to achieve and what you want to prioritize, which is number 1 out of all of these, will be the low level of effort, but the high level of impact, right? Because that means that less spending for hours for engineers if there's dev work, and you can have a high impact to the customer. So once you use that framework, and it's also a nice activity to do with a team, with different post-its, and there's no perfect way of conducting these workshops. But once you have that, then you can just prioritize within those quadrants which ones to do first and which ones to do later. And usually those are one of the activities that we do with different startups in order to get to the definition of what their MVP looks like, right? And then prioritizing that work with engineers.
Yeah.
So that's one of the first few steps in order to get your idea going.
Yeah. Cool. And I'm also thinking, and that will be probably the last question, what's your advice on building the first product team?
Oh, yeah. I think the advice that I have for building the first product team is really like, well, start first, I think, with a technical lead, or somebody that can help you out. Because that person will be able to tell you if something is feasible, something is big, something is small. But take note, it's so difficult now to date and to get matched to a very good CTO. So it doesn't mean that at the beginning, as a founder, let's say you're non-technical, you need to find a CTO immediately. That can come later on, because once you start partnering up with someone and realize that they're not a good fit, it's difficult to let go of a CTO, right? Because they hold everything. So I think what a lot of founders that I've met have been doing is that they work with somebody who is on the same wavelength as them, but have more experience, like ourselves, have more experience, not promoting our business a lot, but somebody who probably sees eye to eye, who understands their business, who has gone through this experience, and who can translate for them everything so that every step of the journey is not going to be difficult, right? So example, we go through that workshop of prioritization, defining the problem, coming up with a hypothesis of solutions, prioritizing these features and coming up with requirements. Those are the basic 10 I think, foundations of starting your own startup or building something from scratch, right? So it's all about being able to find someone that sees everything eye to eye, especially if you don't have experience with tech or building product. And then later on, the engineers can come in, UX can come in for design, and probably hire. You don't have to rush hiring your own CTO. But again, it always depends on the founder's appetite for risk. Because let's say you want to pour money early on and you really believe in your product or what your vision is for this product and solution. I feel like the more also you'll be able to attract people that will be committed to that vision. Yeah. But if your end goal here, and this will be the last one, will be if your end goal here is just making money and not really the vision that you want to pursue, at the end of the day, everybody will just look like expenses for you, right? Like everybody will look like, I'm spending for a consultant, I'm spending for an agency. So you really have to truly believe in your vision, and then everything will actually just follow.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Okay, Dustin, thank you very much for all the insights
Thank
of
you,
today's
Frank.
episode.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, and
Yeah,
I
me
hope
too.
also our listeners get some new insights and perspectives on how to do product. And see you at the third episode, which I think will be very interesting. So stay tuned. I always look there, but there's no camera. Stay tuned.
And it might be a different location. Yeah. Might be in Prague or somewhere
Probably
else.
will be different locations. So stay tuned.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Good job. Hey, we have a photo here.